Well, good morning, everyone. It is so good to see your faces today. Um, a couple things as we begin. I was going to ask a question of you, which you can actually type in the chat bar. It'll make it a little bit easier as we begin, but it was a simple question, and the question I have for you is, what made you angry this week? The reason I wanted to do it in the chat was because it could probably take the rest of the service and the rest of the day to have us all respond with the things that made us angry this week. But I'd love to have you just share something that made you angry as we begin. And then I want to begin with a little bit of a story. I got a Facebook message from a family member who I don't see very often. I may see him once a year, if that. And he sent me a Facebook message, which I was surprised. And so I went to see what was happening, and it was a rather scathing message to me, a reprimand. And he said, ultimately, he said, "You're coming across as angry." And I said, "Well, good. I was afraid I wasn't communicating clearly, and I'm glad that you see that." And he began to tell me why I was wrong to be projecting the anger that he sees in me. And he said, "I feel really sorry for you because you're so hateful." Now, I realize he has a small perspective because he doesn't see me, he doesn't know me, and he has this window into me and my life, which is a social media window. And many of us have that really small, distorted window into many people's lives. But I began thinking about anger again, and anger actually gets a bad rap historically, I think. The video that we saw in the beginning of the service today, All Good People, and this choir of students singing it, Cindy had shared this with a few of us, and the minute I saw it, it changed my perspective on what's happening in the world and what I need to be doing in the world. And so I began thinking about anger, and I was trying to find some positive quotes about anger, and I was really struggling. So I looked up anger quotes, and I was reading through. There's thousands of them, and Buddha says holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else, but you're the one who gets burned. So I struck out there. So I went to Albert Einstein. He says anger only dwells in the bosom of fools. Okay, no luck. I go to Plato. Plato says there are two things a person should never be angry at: what they can help and what they cannot. So I was like, okay, well, I know I can't go to Jesus, but I'm going to go to Jesus anyway, because growing up a Christian, that's what I was supposed to do. So Jesus says, hey, I tell you, anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Anyone who says to a brother or sister, raka, which is this word, this Aramaic word that means empty-headed fool. So calling someone that is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. So I was really struggling to make good on my quest to redeem anger. I was running into a roadblock, but fortunately, I found I was really getting angry that I couldn't justify my anger, but Aristotle saved me. Aristotle came in with this quote that I love, and I want to read it to you. I want you to digest it, and then we're going to sit with this quote. You may have heard it. If you haven't, it may change everything about your day. He says, anyone can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person and to the right degree and at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power, and that is not easy. And I'm going to read that again. Anybody can become angry. That's easy. But to be angry with the right person and to the right degree and at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way. Okay, so I've got it now. I've got the object of my anger, the level of my anger, the timing of my anger, the purpose of my anger, and the manner of my anger. So I have the who am I angry at? How much am I angry? Is now a good time to be angry? Why am I angry, and how am I expressing that anger? So it's a beautiful filter to assess the appropriate nature of my outrage and your outrage. Because that's the challenge, isn't it? We all understand the feeling of anger. We understand that sort of internal, initial, explosive emotion. But can be difficult in the middle of that emotion to gauge how productive what's happening really is, right? Emotion tends to cloud our minds when we need clarity the most. And we need clarity when we are becoming angry. Now, the community that I've been a part of for years, North Raleigh Community Church, and the minister there, Doug, he talks about this, he says this phrase, you may have heard it in many different forms, but he talks about the thing under the thing, right? The idea that when we have this afflictive emotion, when we're feeling negativity or conflict, that it's usually not about the present moment and the seemingly obvious source. Now, you understand that, right? Because you walk into your kitchen and your spouse or your partner or your friend or your kid or your parent, they didn't put the dish in the dishwasher and you blow a gasket, right? And it's probably not about the dish. It's about all sorts of other things. It's about you feeling disrespected and not listened to, and about feeling frustrated with your ability to keep the house clean. And it's about even deeper things. It's about the fact that right now you feel trapped where you are, and you feel financially insecure and emotionally disconnected, and you're grieving things and you're worried about things. And so it's not the dish that you're angry with. Usually it's not the thing. There's a thing under the thing. We have a relatively new dog. His name is Charlie. He's wonderful, but he's a hound. Hounds smell and they like to dig. And I didn't really know this, but I had planted some new grass and Charlie dug it up. So I replanted and he dug it up again. And then I put a fence around it, replanted it, waited, and the grass grew. And then I took the fence off, and 30 minutes after I took the fence off, he dug it up again. And it's been this battle, and I've been losing my mind. And my wife said, listen, whatever's going on is not about the grass. Now, I tried to justify that it was, but, obviously there's other stuff going on in this 3-foot plot of sod in the backyard. But there are times when the present moment and the obvious source are, in fact, the right person to be angry with and the right time to be angry. And then all we have to do is decide the right degree and the right purpose and the right way to express this anger. See, there are times when we are angry at the right thing and for the right reason and in the right way, and we have to hold on to those moments. I'll give you an example. This week we saw what's been unfolding in Portland, and we saw this sort of new presence in those protests that have been going on for months. We saw this line of moms. If you haven't seen it, take a look at the pictures, but most of you have a group of largely white women, moms, in yellow t-shirts, locked arms, and they're standing between protesters and heavily armored paramilitary presence sent there to provoke and harass and use force against. These moms were there because they're angry. These moms are there because they are fueled by their love for humanity and the imminent threat to humanity, which got me thinking about that word anger, and I just think we need to replace it with ferocity. I saw this news story a few weeks ago where a little girl was playing in the front yard and a coyote had wandered in, and the coyote was running right toward the little girl, and then out of nowhere the family dog comes flying in and defends the little girl. And that image of ferocity, of protecting someone you love, you understand that if you're a parent or if you're a family member or if you have a partner, that when they are in danger, there is something that rises up in you, that ferocity that seeks to defend them in some way from danger, from threat. Ferocity for humanity is what birthed the civil rights movement. It's what fueled the women's movement and the fight for LGBTQ equality. It is what has sustained Americans over the past 4 years. It is this fierce love for humanity that will not rest because the way that things are unacceptable. That's a beautiful thing, right? That is the most beautiful impulse we can have, to see humanity in jeopardy and to be moved to do something to alleviate the danger. So I think we look for redemptive anger, not righteous anger, right? Righteous anger says, my cause is just, my motives are pure, but everyone has that. Everyone believes their anger is righteous, but redemptive anger asks, does it bring justice? Does it bring equity? Does it bring wholeness? Does it make someone vulnerable less vulnerable? Does it make someone who is not heard feel more heard? And so I think we can actually embrace a redemptive anger, a ferocity for humanity. And I think the anger of good people is the most valuable thing we have right now, especially in this country. The anger of good people, that not rightness with the way things are. That part of our hearts that finds everything that we're seeing completely unacceptable. And I think the anger of good people is what is going to propel us forward as a nation. That's where you and I come in, because it is exhausting to do this work, to care and to feel that ferocity. It's draining, but we can't afford to grow so tired or so complacent or so apathetic that we lose our ability to be outraged. I think we have to hold on to our intolerance to injustice. I think that's what this community and this movement that we're a part of in Unitarian Universalists, it's built on that, an intolerance to injustice that says we are fiercely loving, but we will not accept when human beings are devalued. You know, when you take a certain medication, often you can build up a tolerance to it and it no longer works. And I think we can't build up an intolerance to inhumanity, which is incredibly easy right now because we see so much of it. The news is oppressive, and the news cycle over and over again, there's a relentlessness to it. And it's really easy for people to grow weary. And that's what's happening right now. And I think you and me, we're feeling this profound discomfort because we are fiercely defending lives from danger. And I think this ferocity for humanity will always be interpreted negatively by those seeking to do damage to it. Your ferocity, your passion for humanity is going to be labeled angry and hateful by people wanting to shut you up or to shut you down. The president calls people like you and me the radical left, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. Or Fox News says that these moms in yellow shirts and locked arms being nonviolent, it declares them dangerous agitators. Maybe your family and your friends and people across the political aisle from you and your social media friends, they call you angry or hateful or a jerk or worse. Women who are here today, you know what it's like to have your forcefulness, your ferocity interpreted as something else. I think it's really important for us right now, at this moment, at this place in time, in the history of our planet, in the history of our nation, and in our personal individual stories, that we decide, can I cultivate an anger that is for the right reason, to the right degree, and at the right time, and for the right purpose, and in the right way? Because if I can do that, I'm going to be a valuable part of the story. And so that's what I want to encourage you today, to stay angry, or at least stay ferocious, stay passionate, to treasure that unrest in you, not as something to be ashamed at or embarrassed by, but something to be cultivated in the healthiest way that you can. Because that's the story. People of privilege often have the luxury of not being involved. They have the luxury of stepping out of the fray. They have the luxury of not being outraged, because at the worst case scenario, they're going to have really nice houses and really nice communities and lots of stuff to do, and they're going to be largely unaffected. It's the people who are on the margins of this life who have the most at stake, who we have to remember in days like these. So relish that part of you that loves humanity dearly. I want to know what you're thinking today. Let's open up the conversation. It can be about something I've shared, but it can be about anything. I think you can raise your hand, or Joe will acknowledge you, and you unmute yourself, or he'll unmute you. I forgot how that works. And let's just talk for a little bit. It's been a while since we could talk.